How did you get through broadcast school, man?
Well, things were a little different then.
Your mind was less complicated?
Well, I just didn't know any better. Welcome to the Greg Angelo Show, featuring Greg Angelo with special guest.
On Planet One Radio.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a plane!
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman.
We want to welcome everybody back to another episode on Planet One. Greg Angelo and John C. So we appreciate y'all coming back. So last time we did a rather unique podcast. We had quite a number of plays in that one, John. That was a deep one.
How many views did we get on
Well,
that one?
probably,
Plays.
I think more than two than what we normally get. Which is like, me and the dog. The dogs like the show. So maybe we should just call it the Doggy Show on Planet One.
It's nice to hear that there's two people out there that actually are listening to the pod.
Do you ever think about the fact that, is anyone ever listening to me when I talk, right? As you walk around the house sometimes or in your car and you're like, does anyone ever listen to me when I say? No one ever listens to me. It's like being on a podcast when no one's listening to you. You're just talking to yourself. That's all you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, self-talk is really what guides our life, isn't it?
Self-talk and
Well, the imaginary
right brain
conversations
thinking
that we have in our head from different scenarios, We're all guilty of it.
Mm-hmm. So today is Wednesday. It's June 11th, and it is a gorgeous day in the South, and we're going to be doing a podcast. We're going to be talking about some stuff that, all that's going on in the media. I have a couple of comments I need to make first for those that are paying attention. It's on my Facebook post. So I've said this once before, quite a while ago. I think this was in November or December, that, you're free to come on my Facebook page and, do your comments. But when you start being rude to other people, then that's like you cross the line and they got to let you go. So I'm just putting it out there, John. You got to have boundaries, right? Don't you think we got to have some sort of boundaries?
Well,
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's always going to be toxic people around, and toxic people make us all seem not so toxic.
But we're getting to the point of boundaries, because if we don't have boundaries, then everyone will just go wherever they want to go, no matter what. And that's what's going on right now in our country. We have no boundaries in our country. People are not understanding when they go to a certain point where they shouldn't go, that it's wrong. They don't care. They don't care. They just believe that they're going to keep pushing forward no matter what, even if they get trampled, even if they get arrested. We're going to talk about this thing in L.A.
L.A.
Probably going to play, I should play some Doors later. L.A. Woman. That'll be good for this one.
Oh, that would be perfect for this. Yeah, for sure.
Of course,
Give up your vows. It just seems like it's Sodom and Gomorrah. Like if you want to do a little bit of comparison, that's what L.A. seems like, or Los Angeles. Actually, the whole state, I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful people, and there are, right? There's great people living in California, but it just seems like the populace, and we studied this back in the day, man, about subliminal programming. and how advertisement agencies were, using cues. And I mean, right up to this day, there's a lot of different, and I notice it. The phone ringing, where it's built into a commercial, or a clock going off, or something that triggers something to the listener.
Hmm.
It's actually, and the narrative that the legacy media has been carrying on with for years and years. Nobody's really caught on to it until recently.
Hmm.
There were all, and they called them the conspiracy theorists. That term actually came from the CIA,
Hmm.
and it was all in the guise to cover up the JFK ordeal there, whatever they had conspired.
Hmm. So
Um, I'm sorry, Greg. I went off into left field there.
yeah, that's all right.
Go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I wanted to just say what you said earlier about LA. So LA is not what it used to be. Okay, it's not what it
No,
was 20 years ago. It's not what it was 30, 40 years ago. It's not like living during the Beach Boys time where everyone was
no, it's
surfing safari. It's not like that now. So, and this is what's been happening. There has been some talk, as I'm sure you've heard, there's all about, how you can kill a country, how you can change a country. We talked about this before. You dilute it, right? So it's like the analogy is like say you have a glass of water, you put all this dark black ink into it, right? And you can't see through it. It's solid black. But when you start putting in something else in there that's not supposed to go in there, and you keep pouring it in and pouring it in, and it's clear, well, that dark ink in that glass is going to become more, it's going to change, and then it's going to get watered down. And that is what's happening in our country now. And I'm sure there's some people who's not, aren't going to like what I'm saying, but we have established this country on principles, and now these principles and our ideology of who we are has been changing, and there's a whole group that wants it changed. So this is the pushback that's happening now, right? You bring all these people in, you bring in 20 million people into the United States. That they didn't just come in through natural immigration process. They just walked in the border, and now they want to be here. And that's the process. So now we have to adapt our lives and our culture to accommodate people like that with their language, and then now we start changing. So this is the movement. You change it through advertisements, you do it through education, right? But then you dilute it by bringing in other outside foreigners into the country. It all changes. That's my view.
Yeah, change is usually very uncomfortable. You're going into the unknown, and that's where things happen, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some turmoil. There's going to be people that don't agree with others, or you know,
So let's take a look
these.
at it from where you're sitting now, because I posted on Facebook that we're going to be doing a recording on our Planet One radio, and that we're going to talk about the LA situation, but from your vantage point, because you don't live in the United States, you're not an American citizen, you're Canadian. And then last night you told me that certain news stations are blocked in Canada.
Well, I mean, not necessarily blocked, but not as prevalent as the legacy media. Um,
Well, I thought you told me that you can't
let's
watch
see.
Fox in Canada.
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, now you can, if you're not going through it's not broadcasted, like legacy media from the States is ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the other stations.
What about CNN?
Yeah, CNN is available as well.
So if you have a cable company, okay, you can get all those news channels the cable news channels, or do you have to go through like another media like YouTube?
That's a good question. I don't think it's available. I mean, they have the packages there. Um, I'm really not interested, so I don't really
Okay, I'm
look
just going
into
by
it too
what you
much.
told
But
me. I'm just going by what you told me last night. You just said you said something about Canada blocks or doesn't allow Fox News to be broadcast in the country.
well, I guess what I'm saying is the same thing is going on here in Canada as what's going on in the States. The media is bought and paid for by the government. So they do only what the government wants them to do. Now, recently, like in the States, there's been all these podcasts that have been popping up and getting more attention a lot of times than the legacy, the propaganda that the government is pitching,
Mm-hmm.
which is the same thing that the legacy media in the States is pitching. It's no different. They're fear tactics that that's the best way to dominate. I mean, Greg, you know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There are there are large changes going on, most of which we don't even see or hear about. All we hear about is what's, podcasted or
Mm-hmm.
and then even that kind of stuff, you got to dig to make sure that the information is accurate. There's a lot of theories and the LA riots is a perfect example of something spinning out of control.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have protests. We've had that before. I mean, Vietnam. We had the Detroit riots. Different states had riots. 77, or I'm sorry, 68, 69, and then there was also riots in the 1940s when there was a rebellion going on when a lot of the service people, a lot of the Navy people were coming back, and it was called 2 weeks in the 40s. So there was all this rebel going on with the local people in Detroit and the military and the Navy people that were coming back and stuff that happened like in the 68 riots. But see, you didn't have people from outside the United States involved in that. Okay, so this is the point that I'm getting at. We're going to use this analogy with you and your home and your family. Okay, so where you live, John, you and your wife and your daughter, right? The three of you in the house. Now, say you got some people that want to come by and hang out and stay for a week or two, right? And they're not your family. The next thing you know, you guys take off, right? You come back and there's like 14, 15, 20 people in your house. You invited a couple in just to say hello, but now you got all these people and they don't want to leave. So do you accommodate that and make room for them? Or do you say, you don't belong here? Right? I didn't give you permission. And so now you got the people who are upset that are knocking on your door. They're screaming at you outside your door because the 15 people that are in your house, you won't let them stay in there. And they feel that they have the right to be there. This is the issue. Okay. That's why there's these forces that are pushing back about getting these people out. Because they knew that once the Biden administration, what they did was allowing all of these people to come into the United States without going through proper legal immigration process. They knew that it was going to be more difficult to get them out. So that's why they brought so many in. I mean, if they brought in, say, 1 million or 2, they could probably, the Trump administration could probably get rid of that within a year. But when you've got like 20 million people, you may not even get like 10% out. And I think that was their plan. So now you have a population in LA, which I think now is more Hispanic than it's ever been. But most of the people that live in LA that are Hispanics, they're here legally, or they've gone through the legal process. And I said to you before that they went through the process to become an American citizen and they raised their right hand and whatever they said, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. But these people that are here now, they don't care about pledging allegiance to the United States. They just want to be here and they don't want to leave. So they want both things. They don't want to pledge allegiance to the United States, that this is the country that they're adopting, and they don't want to leave. That's why this is a problem, because the United States is getting trampled on by this type of attitude.
Really polarized, isn't it? I totally get where you're coming from. Although, rather than to lump them all into they, um, I mean, just listening to what the different stories and scenarios out there, because all you got to do is poke around in the bushes a little bit and you'll find out what you're looking for. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, that have been here for 20 years, but the guy speaks with an accent or something, and I could see how, communication breakdown happens, and people that have been working in the United States for 20 years all of a sudden find themselves locked up in a Venezuelan prison,
Mm-hmm.
and the families and relatives, and I get it. I get it. There's going to be mistakes made, and
But see, here's
that's all
but I
part
see,
of the
right.
process, I guess.
But see, I'm seeing it through the eyes of being an American citizen here. You're looking at it from being from Canada. So let me ask.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. No, I'm not looking at it from just Canada. I'm looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint. You see, Greg, this isn't just a problem in the United States. Europe right now is overwhelmed with immigrants
Mm-hmm.
and migration. They're coming in from Africa, from all parts of the world. And all you got to do is look around what's going on in the other parts of the world, and it seems like a lot of turmoil. Now, whether that's just because information travels a lot quicker these days, for me, it's no coincidence that somebody's getting elected in South Korea and there's an uproar, or
Mm-hmm.
the the uh, the governments are being questioned right now and are under scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot more is going on than what we see here, Greg. I guess that's
Totally
basically.
agree with. I totally agree with you from a larger perspective, from a micro or macro look at it. That's what it is. But from a micro perspective, for the people that live here, okay, because like you said earlier, so the media has basically been protecting the government's what the government wants the people to see. They've been protecting them, right? We've already seen this, especially we've seen this here. And it's nothing really new, but it's more exposed now. Like the stuff that happened with Jack Tapper at CNN, right? To me, that's just a big sham. All right. It's a huge sham. He's writing a book about something that he should have already told people years ago. I mean, you talk about hypocrisy. And now you got this guy from ABC News. So Terry Moran, okay, he's with ABC News. He got fired because of a tweet that he put about Trump and, that he's a dictator and all this stuff that's going on. And they're all pushing back against this LA issue because they're trying to stop the deportation. And I believe those that are in there are criminals, right? They're not the people that, have been here for a while, that working at the grocery store or whatever they're doing. Those are not at the top of the list. There's people in there in this federal institution over there in LA that are just bad actors, and you wouldn't want them living next to you. Nobody would. And so, people, we get upset at the fact that you have people that are getting paid to tell people something that isn't true. That's the problem. All right, so that's part of it. But here's the thing that I wanted to ask you. So let's just say that this situation is going on in Canada. Let's just say Montreal. Say there is a large group of people who shouldn't be there, and the government.
There are.
Okay, all right, but here's the thing: that your government now is trying to deport them. Okay, And now you have the whole sect of people that are there from that other country or other countries. They're upset and they take the Canadian flag and they light it on fire and they spit on it. And then they're prancing around the burning Canadian flag with their flag. Would Canadians be upset by that?
Oh, I'm sure they would be.
Would you be
I'm
upset
sure
by
that.
that?
No, not really. Not really. It's not that I don't love my country any less than anybody else, but I mean, um, somebody's ill-natured behavior is just that. It's theirs. I mean, I certainly wouldn't burn any flag for that matter. Maybe a Luciferian flag or but
Is it illegal?
no,
Is
no.
it a crime to burn the Canadian flag?
Oh, Greg. I mean, no.
Okay. No, I don't know. I'm just
No, nobody's
asking.
going to get
I
no.
don't know if it's it's part of your Canadian
No.
Constitution or what it is. I don't know because they've
No.
been trying to make that into law, right? Burning the American flag. Now listen, we've had Americans burn American flags. Okay, we have people outside the United States in the Middle East who has burned the American flag. But when you have people, this is just my view, John. When you have people that are here who are upset because they can't stay here in the United States, which means they want to be here and they don't want to go through the process. And then they burn the flag in the country that they want to stay in. And then they wave their own flag. So what is it? I mean, what is
Propaganda,
this?
brother.
What is this
Propaganda.
about? It's about
It's all designed to fool the masses. That's what it's designed for. This is the whole shenanigan that they're trying to pull. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And Canada's not too far behind the States. I mean, yeah, Canadians are polite and will keep their opinion to themselves if they see that it's going to bring harm to somebody. But, Canada, the citizens of Canada are absolutely fed up, just like the citizens in the States are fed up. Whether you want to call it Democratic or Republican, these are things. And what amazes me is that such an uproar into things that Donald Trump announced that he was going to do if elected, and he's actually following through. Is he going to make some mistakes? Absolutely, he's going to make, but he's getting things done that should have been done probably decades ago. And there's a lot of information
that's the
that
problem.
still hasn't been released.
See, that's the problem. So this election and the 80 million, however, 82 million, whoever voted for him, doesn't matter. We're probably going to get diving into politics a little bit, but unfortunately, the Democratic Party is such a resistance against almost anything unless it has to do with them. So they really could care less that he was elected by a democratic process. They don't want that. They want their elections to be done by the way that they want them to be done so that they could win. They don't want the electoral college. They don't want a democratic process where everyone's vote counts.
Well, they've designed it otherwise. They've designed it for the president and have a mentally challenged president just hang out and eat ice cream while they set up the auto pen to do what they need to do, thinking that they know best and following probably some kind of nefarious agenda. It's not going to work, Greg. It's not going to work. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going back from the beginning when I said there's no boundaries. Okay. The limits of people saying I shouldn't go this far are pretty much, I think, are over. When you have people that can drive through a crowd in a vehicle and just blatantly kill people, when you had this guy that was in Denver who was trying to kill other people with this acid or whatever bottle was in his bottle, because he was Palestinian, you have no consciousness, no moral consciousness. Okay. And I believe that is what has really been happening. Someone's moral compass, when you can point it and you know where north is and where south is, that people, they don't have a straight compass anymore. I can go back to what we talked about last time a little bit, but that's what I believe is that because we live in such a hostile, evil world, that man's consciousness to understand wisdom no longer exists. That's what I'm saying. Because knowledge is one thing, wisdom is another. Knowledge gives you the ability to read diagrams.
Knowledge is just information. It doesn't
and
give you
the
any ability.
you know
It's implicating the knowledge that one acquires ability. I mean, knowledge in itself is pretty much useless unless you're using the knowledge, right?
right, but
To
knowledge
walk
though,
around and to be able to state a bunch of facts, it's really not helping anybody,
right,
or anything for that matter. You
right.
know, um,
But the point I'm making is this, is that if you learn how to do something, so you get all this stuff that you ship in, whatever, and you have the ability and the knowledge to know how to make a bomb based on reading directions, okay? You can do that. But wisdom says whether or not you should actually do anything with it or use it, because it's going to kill people, okay? So that's the disconnect between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge says that you can learn how to drive your vehicle with all the new instruments and the new AI that's in the cars now, and this driver assist. And it's crazy to see the technology that are in new cars today. It's just wild. Okay. Now, does the car say that if you push this button, you're going to go right into a crowd of people and kill them? To do that, push here? No, it doesn't do that. There's no instruments, there's no features on the car that will do that. But your brain, for whatever reason, thinks that it's okay to do that. There's no switch up there that says, or some alarm that's going off in your head that's saying, that's a bad thing. They just go ahead and do it. So that's what I believe is what's going on in the minds of individuals, is that they no longer have an understanding between right and wrong. They do not fear any consequences. As I said in the last one, that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. But what does that really mean? That means that God is giving people the ability to understand what you should do and what you shouldn't do on a moral basis. Now, you can argue whether or not whatever that morality is, but I'm sure that you would agree, John, that just because you have a baseball bat to play ball with, whacking it over someone's head is not what that bat was created for.
oh, I would agree. No, baseball is baseball, and head smashing is head smashing. Unless you're using a baseball.
I
But I'll
know.
have to agree, Greg. When morals are taken out of the school systems in place, and that happened years ago. It's happened in the States, and I think that's what they're trying to get down to with the Department of Education there in the States is, when you don't teach, and it's well documented that most of the person's personality, most of the human being's personality and traits are programmed subliminally in early childhood. So now uh, you have a set of of parents or guardians or whoever with without having the experience of being guided morally as a young child and following what's on the internet or the latest fad or what somebody's going to have for lunch or and now it's confusing, not for the child. Now the child is at the mercy of the adults surrounding them. And, the adults do what the rest of the people do, and that is to send their children to school, thinking that, they're actually, trusting that their child is going to be taken care of in school with strangers. Because basically, all the teachers are strangers. Maybe not much so with the child, but to the rest of us, they certainly are.
Well, here it's a little bit different in the South. So there is a lot of teachers know the parents. I'm sure there's some teachers that are parents that are in the schools here. And I don't really see here that we have like this really hardcore curriculum that you'd see like up in New York and in other places or Chicago and things like that, or in Denver. We don't really have a
the States is ranked like 47th as far as educational system, or 40th or something. The United States' education system is ranked amongst the lowest, which was surprising to me when I heard and read about it, and I actually looked into it. It's just atrocious. And it's
never really been stellar. It really hasn't been. We've always been the lower bottom, near the bottom. I think for years, probably for 25, 30 years, it's always been that way.
Ignorance breeds ignorance.
Well, the public school system is allowing people to go in there and behave in a certain way and then you can't do anything about it, right? And I'm sure there were some laws passed, teacher, parent, teacher, what teachers can do and what they can't do. Right? I mean, you probably know when you grew up in the school system that, even when you were, we grew up in the 70s, 72, 73, whatever that was, 74. We feared the teacher from getting the ruler. Right? That's pretty much it. Because you knew going in that was going to be a possibility, that the teacher, you had that. Now, obviously, there's been some teachers who probably took that to an extreme level and, abused children. We know that. But now you have teachers are afraid of children in the classroom for being sued, for the parents, going after them, for, even verbally saying something verbally wrong to them. So now this is what I'm trying to say is that in education now, all of that's changed. So it's flipped now. The students are in charge, because the teachers can't do anything and the principal really can't do anything. And now you have a culture, society, where they do not fear law enforcement. They don't fear them. Because if they do get arrested in some of those areas, especially like in LA and things like that, or sanctuary cities, then you're going to be released with no bail and you're just going to get out. Right? You can steal up to $1,000 and not get punished. That makes no sense. These merchants believe that it actually is going to cost them more money to prosecute for someone who's, stealing a $50 item than it is for them just to take it. So then now we allow it. That border now is gone. This is what I'm saying. The boundaries that were established between right and wrong are all been diluted like the black ink that's in the glass. You can see anything in there now. It's no longer the solid element that you had intended it to be. That's my point on that one. We should take maybe a small commercial break. What do you think, John?
Sounds good.
You're listening to Planet One Radio. John C. and Greg Angelo with you on a Wednesday. It's June 11th. For those of you who have just been checking us out recently, we've done a number of these. We're getting a little bit more deeper into the realm of realities and more specifics about politics, I guess, and all of those things. And you may not agree with it, which is fine. We understand that. We don't all live on the same side of the fence. And you can feel free to let us know what you think. I do have a couple of shout outs, though. I did tell some people, especially here in the Charlotte, North Carolina, South Carolina area. So in the real estate world, there's many, many real estate agents that I know. Some that I actually worked with. This was one that I worked with. So Nick May is with the Carolinas Property Group. It's CPG, and he is affiliated with eXp Realty. So he's been with eXp for a number of years. I knew Nick when we were with another broker firm probably about 4 years ago, but he does an amazing job. He's got stellar reviews, him and his team at Carolina Property Group. We'll have some information on our YouTube website, and you can check that out. You can reach out to him and talk to them if you're looking to get into a home. So they do handle North Carolina and South Carolina. And so they're licensed in both states, and they're able to take care of both sides of the fence for you on Planet One Radio. What do you think, John? Did that sound like a real commercial or what?
Yeah, it sure did.
We'll do it again towards the end. So, but I did tell people that I would plug them on the show, and it's always good for that, right? Want to be a sponsor? Give us a call. Let's see. Where are we heading now, John? Where are we going on this one?
Where are we going? We're going into the unknown. I can't believe what I'm witnessing right now. The first time in history. And people are more concerned about who won the football game or who won the basketball game or what Kim Kardashian is wearing this week. I just watched a congressional hearing, and I just listened to a decorated Air Force intelligence officer stating that Roswell, the legend and the conspiracy theory of Roswell, which we're all familiar with, is actually fact. That they have technologies in their possession that are above and beyond description to the masses. And all these private skiffs going, it's all tied in. It's all tied in. There's nothing, and the fact that NASA hired some priests from different denominations to help them figure out what the impact is on the different religions of the world and how they're going to deal with it is all indicator. And then I listened to an Air Force pilot. These guys, and I'm sure you'll agree, Greg, these guys are highly trained. I mean, to stick somebody in a $40 million piece of equipment, they better be well trained, or they will be well trained as far as the U.S. The U.S. is known to put in people that just dominate as far as warfare. But there's more going on here, Greg. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more going on than what they're telling us. And it's funny, we always refer to they, I always wonder who they are. This dark, deep state that seems to have a grip on this Democratic Party. There was a statistic that I read that all in all, there's about 140 people on this planet that are calling the shots. And most people are too busy with their lives, raising a family, going to work. The system is just not set up for some.
Well, I think, that's all true. That's all of that is what it is. People talk about yeah, and I would agree that there's a lot of that is true. Obviously we know when people talk about conspiracy theories, and most conspiracy theories, depending upon which way you're looking at it, can be true. And there's those that people who don't believe any of it at all. There are a lot of people who do believe in the Roswell conspiracies, and that there are a lot of things that are going on, and a lot of our high tech military people have been sworn to secrecy, probably threatened if they would to tell the truth of what they know. Now, you would probably remember a year or two ago, they were talking about that the military was going to come out and show all these videos and pictures of UFOs and all these other things. And then you had the hearings. Well, it was nothing that was, it wasn't a revelation of any kind. It wasn't like a euphoric knowledge, because they didn't really say much. And it's almost like they were vague. Like if I asked you a certain question specifically, you would just say, well, that's just how the general population acts, or, that's just how the mind works.
No, they were very specific. I don't know if you've heard the hearings.
No, I
Did you
did.
actually listen to the hearings? They were hours and hours long.
I did, but there wasn't anything that came.
They were very specific, and there was intelligence officers there, actually an admiral as well in the latest one, that said, look, there's crafts coming out of the water and going from sea level to 80,000 feet in less than a second. And they witnessed it, and they have it on videotape.
So where is it? So why isn't, like, this country, everyone was on pins and needles, and a lot of people walked away saying, we don't really, you're telling us something, but you're not showing us everything. And that's just like what's going on right now with it.
What they were saying. That's exactly their point was that all these, because eventually apparently they've kept it a good secret, and had this propaganda going that, if anybody mentioned anything like this, you'd be laughed at and thought of, which discouraged a lot of people that actually saw something from coming out and saying, hey, look, I saw something. So, so they're considered, mentally unstable, or at least that's what this misinformation campaign has been up until now, up until the internet now, where it's becoming saturated with different accounts and different experience. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people stretching the truth, or all out liars, for personal gain. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these people from these intelligence agencies and highly ranked military and Navy admirals and generals coming out and saying that this is actually true, that we've been using reverse engineering and technology, and that's why I'm talking to you today on this Zoom here, Greg, because the U.S. military, and this is just my opinion, has had this technology for decades. Decades.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes with Kevlar. The same thing goes with Velcro, fiber optics, right from the time that it was tube to transistor. And I know that you're old enough to remember the days of the tubes, where you had to wait for the tubes to warm up on any kind of electronic units, because they were using the vacuum tubes until they discovered the transistors, right? Which is something that apparently and the chips, these crystal chips, these silica, crystal-based technology that's able to hold terabytes of information. There's a lot going on right now, and I hope that the American people and the Canadian people are given all the information that's needed, because to allow a certain few to make the decisions for humanity is not a good choice. We all know this, except for the ones making the choices. See, from their perspective, they know better. that we're just like an ant colony, just mindlessly going through, and they'll do whatever they can to distract. You've seen it,
Hmm.
bro.
Yeah.
You've seen that whenever there's something going on that they don't want anybody to know about, the government that is, they come up with different distractions. That's why I'm saying that these LA, what's going on in the turmoil in LA right now could be manufactured. They could be all paid actors, because to me, um, it just, like you said, it doesn't make sense. You're waving the Mexican flag around, you're burning U.S. flags. It does not make sense. Although they'd like to incite more, because that would incite violence, right? That for people that, and I know people that are, they would get offended. I think you're one of them if you saw somebody burning the flag in front of you, especially if you had, family and military or something.
Well, that's really,
Somebody's
really what
burning a
a lot of
fan.
that's what it comes down
Somebody's
to.
burning a flag. It's
Well,
gonna.
it's not only that, but it's the 250 years of what this country is going through, what it's gone through, and what it's going through, right? So, even from a philosophical position, thousands of years ago, when there's been different societies and different cultures than we have today,
It's
and
all been done before.
right, and
These are just
the type
cycles.
of democracy was one of, or a republic style culture, never lasted,
Yeah.
didn't last very long.
And
Because
that's
then,
what we may be witnessing right now is the demise of the United States,
well, it's been
the
like this
inner
for a number of years.
turmoil.
Well, yeah, it's been like this for a number of years. They want the United
Hmm.
States to change. Like these other countries, they want to perpetrate inside the United States to take over from the inside out. That's what it is. So again, I'm going back to the glass of the black ink. That's what it started with. And you look at it today and it looks very, very thin gray in there now. And so pretty soon you won't be able to recognize what this country is. It's going to be the United States, but it's not what it was. And that's part of the whole process of what they've been going through. And it could be the 140 people that are running this country, like you said. I think there's other people that are
Running the
getting
planet,
running
not
the
the
planet.
country.
Right, you got it. But see, I don't lie awake at night thinking about these things. We're talking about this now. I am a little bit upset because I don't like to see the American flag get trashed. I really don't. I think that if you're an American citizen here, that you need to recognize that the reason that you can do what you want and go on Zoom and work at home and drive whatever car you want and go out to dinner and eat where you want to eat, do pretty much whatever you want to do today, is basically because of the ones that came before us and sacrificed their lives to have this freedom. I mean, you know what's going on
Yeah,
in
I mean, you
China. China,
understand that,
everything,
but I mean,
everything.
there's no clue
Right.
and
But
no reference point. Raised, and that's the way you were taught. And God bless you, because yeah, that's how countries stay together is from people uniting and sticking together. But I mean, there are individuals that haven't been raised like that, that have no idea what a flag is, not even their own countries. They don't know the meaning. So um, I chalk it up to ignorance, Greg. It's nothing but a lack of knowledge and a lack of wisdom, as you would say. These are things that used to be common. It's just not common now. I see the United States turning into a nation where you would actually have to pass a test to have a child. In other words, the days of just having children because you feel like having children, regardless of whatever your moral scruples are or your behavior, it's all, it's an all go. It's going to get to the state where, or the state where the government is going to be regulating the population. That's where I see all this going.
Well, it's
It's
not going to happen in
another.
the next 3.5 years. Maybe that'll
Well,
happen
no,
down the road,
no, it
but
it
I
probably
also think
it
though
won't.
that
But I'm talking about way off into the future.
oh, okay.
This idea where people can just randomly have children without any kind of basic knowledge that they can pass on to their kids. That's what's going on now. I mean, yeah, we can blame people for behaving the way they behave, but we don't know their background, their upbringing, what they've experienced in life. Um, I'm sure that there's a lot of good people, just like there's a lot of bad people that came in to the United States and to Canada, you know, and I get it. You got to get the bad ones out because they're going to hurt the good ones. It's just common sense. And there's going to be, um, mistakes made all in a rush or something, something becomes violent in a rush, something is done to somebody that shouldn't have been
Right,
done.
100%. But see, here's the thing: unless it happens to you, unless you experience it, crime upon yourself, that these people that are protesting, which is fine, but they're throwing rocks and boulders and anarchy for a purpose that probably none of them really truly care about. All this stuff that was going on here in the United States about the AID and, the money that was spent on different things that had nothing to do with feeding the poor and things like that. People in government know that was going on. They know that the money that was supposed to be going for actually humanitarian aid, wasn't being used for those purposes, and nobody was upset about it until they got caught. So we don't have a morality anymore. That's, again, I'm getting back to the compass. We don't have a moral compass anymore because evil is infiltrating the minds of the people in this world. It's called sin. Sin now is in a much bigger atmospheric sense than it was 40, 50, 60, 100 years ago. It's just how it is. It's growing and it's growing. It's like the mold in the bathroom. Sin is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's diluting people's understandings of morality. Now, I know it's might be a hard thing, for some people to understand or swallow, but it's because of what we see and what we do and what we don't say no to.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, be the change that you want to see done.
Mm-hmm. But
that's all you can do.
But see, here's the thing, though.
It on an individual basis. We can all control ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of it, lack of self-discipline is something that, it's prevalent.
And
everywhere.
There's a saying, right? There's a saying that said that if God were to show you the consequences of your sin, as when you do it, that people would be frightened to death. They would be in their panic rooms, locked into their rooms, based on what they would see. God doesn't do that because he's a merciful and graceful and loving God. So he is working things out differently than coming down with the hammer, right? We talked about this the other night, right? We talked about what happened when Jesus went into the temple. They turned it into like Jesus said, it turned it into a den of thieves. They were robbing God of his glory. They were robbing him of reason that it was a purpose there. The purpose there was a house of prayer to worship God. And it wasn't supposed to be a changing money. The tax collectors that were in there and all of that. If you went to a church on a Sunday and you went in there and people were in there barbecuing and they were, talking about anything other than the reason that they were there, you'd be like, what are these people doing in here? You're not supposed to be in this church for this reason. You're supposed to be in here. You came in here to worship the Lord. Well, they weren't doing that. They were people in someone else's house that shouldn't have been in there. Getting back to what I said to you before about you and your family, you have people living in your home now, and you really don't want them living in there.
Me?
I'm just saying in generalities. I'm not saying specifically, John. I'm
Hypothetically.
saying
I was gonna say, if
hypothetically.
there's somebody living here, I have no clue other than my family.
Right, but this is what's going on, though. This is what it is. It's like, I'm not trying to say that, having people from other countries come to the United States is a bad thing. Okay, so I believe in legal immigration because I have sat down with people. I used to be a language, they call it an ELL, English language learner at the home church that I had in Michigan. And we had a whole group of people that came in there every Wednesday night, and they were learning English and understanding how to put sentences together and all that. Some of them were Asian, some of them were Chinese, some of them were Hispanic, some of them were Chaldeans or, from the Middle East, but they were all going through the legal process of becoming United States. And I was helping some of them understand the Constitution, Congress, and many of them know more about this country than people who are born here and don't study it, okay? Because they don't study that in school, apparently. I don't know.
Well, just because you're born here, it doesn't mean that you're smart.
Right.
I mean, it's a known fact. People that learn multiple languages usually have a higher intellect than people.
Right. And then we celebrate that. So you celebrate that. You celebrate someone who's done that, who came over here, who didn't want to be in that country, who wanted to make a better life for themselves, and they go through the process, and then they declare that this is their homeland. This is the United States is now their home. And we celebrate that. So we don't do that now. People don't care about that. They just want to be here and give me whatever it is that I need to get. Why do you think that Chicago turned upside down? You had parents that were upset because they couldn't get their kids in school or on the bus because there were thousands and thousands of people that were outside the United States who were first in line.
Wow. I understand the frustration with people, and it's good that they voice their opinion, write their congressmen, or do whatever they can to try to give them a clue. It's just unfortunate that a lot of these politicians have been corrupted, and then the ones that haven't been corrupted are being accused of being corrupt. So there's a lot of hostility both ways, bro.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's all going to get better.
I mean, I don't know who knows? I mean, I know one thing: God sits on the throne no matter what. Through all of those things, He's in charge.
Well, and that's all we can rely on, right? Is He's got it all covered, regardless of whether we're able to see the big picture or not. Interesting times right now, bro. Boy, has that changed since the good old days of Fort Myers and Estero Beach. And would you think that at that time we'd be discussing world events 40 years later?
No.
From camera to camera, you in North Carolina, me in Ontario, Canada. This is Star Trek equipment.
I don't even know if I had a cell phone. I can't remember if I even had a cell phone back then.
No. There were pagers, I think. In those days, it was, remember the beeper or the pager?
Right. And we had no GPS. I had no GPS, right? We didn't even know where Fort Myers was. Well, I think this is going to do it for this one. I know we covered a lot of ground. I don't actually made a dent into anything. Probably not, but...
No. We'll have to revisit.
Well, this is a conversation that's always going to go on, especially when you're talking about morality, but I am going to just basically carve this into the realm of we don't have boundaries anymore.
I'm interested in knowing what the two viewers have to say.
Well, one's probably going to bark. Hope it's going to be a happy bark versus a sad bark. Well, we're going to wrap this one up. We'll see how long this is. We're over an hour on this podcast, which isn't uncommon for John and I. We could probably talk for another 2 hours, but you, the listeners, probably maybe have drifted away by now, but we appreciate you being here anyway and reaching out to us. This will be up on our YouTube channel on Planet One Radio YouTube, and we do put this up on Buzzsprout, which puts it out on all the podcast platforms, Amazon and all those other ones that are out there. But I think that's going to do it, John. Unless you got anything else you got to say.
No, I just want to wish everybody a wonderful day. And please make a comment, make a suggestion. If you make a good suggestion and we do a show on it, Greg will mail you a Planet One T-shirt, free of charge.
No, I
won't. Greg's looking at me saying, "Wait a minute, that's not part of the script here." Well, hey, I'm willing to send you a Planet One T-shirt if we vote on it being a good show, a topic for a show. Then yes, I will personally have a Planet One T-shirt mailed to you.
Well, you got to make it first.
Now it's up to you.
Right.
To the two viewers listening and watching, the ball's in your corner now. What are you going to do? You want a T-shirt? Make a suggestion. Greg's open to it. Greg, what do you think?
We have to walk slowly through this before we start telling people what we're going to give them. That's my view. We need to talk to the legal department first. Yeah. We got to go.
The HR department, see what they have to say about it. Although the union might be disgruntled about it, we'll see what we can do.
All right. So we thank everyone for being part of our Planet One Radio family. For John C., this is Greg Angelo. Thanks for being here with us. You have a great day. Remember, love one another. Take care of one another. We'll talk to you soon.